Good evening, everyone. The time is 7:30 on this February 22nd meeting of the City Council. I hereby call it to order. Would you all please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And would the clerk please call roll?
McHale.
Here.
Budmetz.
Present.
O'Brien.
Here.
Veneziano.
Here.
Bessetti.
Here.
Reyes.
Here.
Sonoyka.
Here.
With 7 present and nobody absent, there is a quorum this evening. Therefore, members of the audience are reminded that these proceedings are being recorded for current and future broadcast over the city's cable television channel, as well as our other media outlets. First order of business we have tonight is to approve minutes from a previous meeting, and it looks like there's one set of minutes to approve, and that's from the February 8th, 2022 City Council meeting. Is there a motion to approve this set of minutes? Thank you, Alderman McHale. Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to this set of minutes? Seeing none, the question is, shall the minutes be approved? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. The ayes have it, and the minutes are approved. Next up on this evening's agenda is the mayor's report, and I would like to make this brief, but I apologize in advance if it does go long. But late last week, I received this flyer on my door at my household, and I know another series of homeowners received it as well. I don't know necessarily how much of the city was covered with these flyers or other versions of this particular flyer, but I have to say I was disappointed with this literature and the propaganda on it. I'm not upset or disappointed in people expressing their opinion on the position. Everybody has a right to express their opinions or positions on a matter. The picture this group, this Save Our Society from Drugs group, is attempting to portray is shameful, in my opinion. The reason I believe it's shameful is because there's a series of misinformation included in this flyer. There's baseless statistics in the bullet points, and furthermore, they're alleging that myself and the other members of the council are hiding something from the community. And I know myself and the council, and staff, and even the Planning and Zoning Committee haven't subverted any process or withheld any information from the public as it relates to our upcoming first reading of this ordinance, which is on this evening's agenda as item B. Matter of fact, the city did publish the notice of the Planning and Zoning Committee's public hearing in the Daily Herald on January 17th. The Planning and Zoning Committee did conduct that public hearing on February 1st. And contrary to the flyer, we are not completely opening our doors to the marijuana industry, nor do we want to be the first town in Illinois to do that. It's just not the case, and we're hardly the first when it comes to the amendments to our zoning text. The problem with this flyer is that it misleads residents in genuinely understanding what we're here to discuss and potentially vote on tonight. The reality is cannabis is already in our community for medical use, has been here since 2015, and when cannabis was recreationalized for adult use in Illinois, it was approved by over 70% of Illinois voters. But for the residents who have received this flyer and called expressing their opposition, I understand their opposition and they're entitled to their opposition, but I fielded many phone conversations with a lot of misguided information on the subject and what we as a council are discussing this evening. So to that point, I just want to put on the record, and I hope that all the residents who receive these flyers are completely capable to research information on their own and find objective sources that are credible and valid. But I did find it damaging to say that marijuana commercialization significantly increases the need for homeless services. The Reason Foundation, a think tank founded in 1978, put out a 5-page report in 2018, and it's titled, "Does Recreational Marijuana Legalization Contribute to Homelessness?" So this study took into account more than just the 2 states that have had the longest recreational use, which was Colorado and Washington. But they also examined the neighboring states such as Idaho and Wyoming. And we know that Wyoming borders Colorado and Idaho borders Washington. Now, what they found was that in those other states who did not have recreational cannabis legalized, the homelessness rates mirrored the same as Colorado and Washington. So these assertions that we start seeing and that are being fed to residents are misguiding and causing friction based on the conversation, the tone, the tenor, and the level of civility in the conversations that I had with residents. The other bullet point, where children who live near pot shops have more access to marijuana and are more likely to use it and other drugs. So as I mentioned, Colorado, which has had recreational cannabis legalized since 2005, has researched through the Colorado Department of Public Health and Safety, the Division of Criminal Justice, Office of Research and Statistics. They did publish a 188 report on the impacts of marijuana legalization in Colorado in youth. And what they've done since 2005, in 2009, 11, 13, 15, 17, and 19, they took a total of 53,520 randomly selected students from 195 randomly selected schools to participate in this Healthy Kids Colorado survey. The sample included 46,537 students in 166 public high schools and 6,983 students in 29 public middle schools. The results show the proportion of Colorado high school students reporting using marijuana ever in their lifetime remains statistically unchanged between 2005 and 2019. It's further exampled in figure 56, but that figure 56 shows that there was no statistically significant difference between Colorado student responses compared to the national data. So the state of Colorado, where cannabis has been recreational since 2005, 17 years, has the data that refutes these claims that our residents are being told. Furthermore, the density of pot shops and delivery services that positively related to the frequency of child abuse and neglect. Now, this is a pretty significant assertion, that the density of cannabis dispensaries is positively correlated to child abuse and child neglect. That, if I was uninformed of the situation, I would be rather alarmed at. Now, I do know that there is a 73-page thesis published by Katie Bradshaw out of the University of Reno, and it's titled, "The Proofs in the Pot: Are There Relationships Between Statewide Cannabis Legislation and Child Maltreatment Substantiation?" Now, I could go ahead and read the 78 pages here, but the most important thing to take away, and I will provide the deputy clerk with all of these sources, so anyone who is interested in looking at these or other objective findings on the subject can reference them. It says, yet over half the states in the U.S. have enacted cannabis legalization legislation over the last decade, and researchers and practitioners have barely scratched the surface into revealing the impact on children. Now, the point of that is we don't even have enough data to make the assertion that this does happen. However, in this study, and we do have enough data to make the definitive statement that the density of bars and liquor stores was positively correlated with child neglect and child physical abuse. So these are things that we have to take into consideration if we're going to utilize these subjects as a basis of our moral compass in our community and the potential degradation or improvement. We have to not be selective in that which we examine as something that's faulty. The final one, which was several studies have also linked heavy marijuana use to criminal behavior. And for this, the Journal of American Academy of Psychiatry and Law published an article in December of 2021 titled "Fact or Faction Regarding the Relationship Between Cannabis Use and Violent Behavior." Now, included in the article were sections containing figures and data, furthermore, information and metrics. But the literature suggests that violence and criminality occur at higher rates in individuals with severe and persistent mental illness, also known as SPMI, and substance use disorders compared with the general population. So we mustn't take worst-case scenarios and use this as our baseline to frighten or misinform general population residents within the community. There are far too many factors that determine what causes someone to act criminally or violently. Cannabis was not included as a direct precursor to this behavior in the article. And for me, what I would like to remind the residents who are involved in this campaign about cannabis in our community, I fully respect your positions. I respect your personal beliefs, but we have to respect others who have a difference of opinion. Just because your opinion differs from somebody else's, it doesn't automatically make yours right and theirs wrong. We have to disagree and still respect one another. And so that's what I needed to share about this flyer, which I know it peers on my council received as well, and probably field as many phone calls as I did regarding the nature of this flyer. And so that's it for my mayor's report. Are there any ward reports this evening? Alderman McHale and then Alderman Budmats.
Yes, I just wanted to tell everyone that I was part of the Community Events Foundation meeting last Tuesday. They met for their first meeting of this year, and there are some really exciting events planned for 2022 season. We discussed the upcoming Memorial Day Parade, the block party, working with the police department on that, which is always a nice kickoff to the summer, and starting to organize the 4th of July Parade. So, speaking of that, if anybody would like to be a part of the parade, as a business or a community group or a neighborhood, please reach out to Assistant to the City Manager, Lori Cezak. The Community Events Foundation meets once a month and is always looking for volunteer members for the many events that they produce throughout the year. The next meeting is Tuesday, March 15th. So if anybody's interested and would like additional information, please contact Lori Cezak. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Alderman McHale. I know after the weather we've been having up and down, I'm longing for summer.
For sure.
Alderman Budmats.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was given this tonight to read as it's from a member of my ward who wishes to stay anonymous. So I am, under my ward report, reading this to you. It says, to the City of Rolling Meadows, Mayor Gallo and myself, Alderman Budmats. It is my understanding that a vote will occur on February 22nd to open its doors to the marijuana industry in our town. As a resident of Rolling Meadows for in excess of 32 years, I am greatly concerned about this and the ramifications it creates. Our town should not allow this to occur. We should first consider that our town is one of class, and we should be proud of that and protect all that it stands for. I believe that the opening of the marijuana industry should be concerning due to the impact that it would have on our children and its usage and the cost to our town to regulate/police it. There is also a link of marijuana usage to criminal behavior, welfare dependence, and lower life satisfaction. There is also potential for hospitalizations for marijuana usage, marijuana dependence, and abuse. To open the doors to the marijuana industry in Rolling Meadows would be a significant mistake and would have long-lasting negative effects on our town. I beg you to vote no and to move forward the desire to keep the City of Rolling Meadows as a town of class instead of one of where a drug is more available and prevalent. Thank you for your consideration. That's it.
Thank you, Alderman Budmats. Are there any other ward reports this evening? Seeing no further ward reports, now will be the time that we open the floor to the public. Prior to doing that, I will read some short reminders, and we do have signatures this evening. And so in order to secure the rights of the citizens of the city to a fair and just representation before their elected officials, and to guarantee to the elected officials an order and dignified form in which to conduct the city's business, no person shall be allowed to engage in any activity that will disturb or disrupt the orderly proceedings of this city council. Per the rules of procedure, the public is to address the city council, and the fact that no member of the city council responds does not mean that the city council or any member thereof agrees or disagrees with the comment. In order to attain this objective, the following rules of conduct are hereby established. First, any person who seeks to address the city council at this time for public comments shall be permitted to speak only upon recognition of the presiding officer, and such person shall adhere to the following provisions. A, each person addressing the city council shall state their name for the record. Each person shall be granted no more than 5 minutes of the allotted 20 minutes in order to address the city council. Questions and/or commentary shall be limited to city business. Comments supporting or opposing a nominated person's candidacy for elective office of the city shall be out of order. Commentary shall be directed to the presiding officer unless the presiding officer permits the individual to address the council members or other city officers present. Discussion shall take place in a professional manner which displays mutual respect, and of course, as always, profanity shall not be used in any form or manner. With that, the first name on the sign-in sheet is Lisa Brock. Do we have individuals going to collect them from the other room? Thank you.
list, so are we going in alphabetical order?
I go from bottom to top.
Oh, great. Welcome. Hi. I'm Lisa Brock, and I am married to Bob Brock, a over 30-year resident of Rolling Meadows. I've lived here for 17 years. We have a just turned 15-year-old freshman at Rolling Meadows High School and a 13-year-old daughter. I am here to talk about the same topic that Mayor Gallo, who I personally know, just spent 10 minutes talking about. And I think the first thing I want to say, I just got in from out of town. I just heard about this. I'm an over 30-year social worker who has seen the impact of marijuana and how it can escalate as a gateway drug, where it can then both impede and impact and impair people's functioning. I understand and value the role of marijuana as medical marijuana, and we have access to it in our community already and in other local communities. I am not here about a flyer. I didn't receive the flyer, and I think that we should not focus on the flyer. In the brief time I've had to review the Planning Commission documents and the agenda from the last meeting, these are my questions to the council. I do not see any evidence of why you are recommending this for our community. So that's my question. What is the anticipated tax benefit to our community? What is the value add that you all see? In my review of the minutes, I don't see that. I see an outlined and predated ordinance amendments. They are predated to March 8th, when a vote has not even been completed yet. And so I need to hear tonight from all of you why you believe, Mayor Gallo, please listen to me.
I have to watch the time. I apologize, but
Okay.
I have to watch your 5 minutes.
Okay. Also, I need to understand what is the evidence that this type of business will bring in other desired business. We have watched and seen our community struggle to fill these storefronts with meaningful businesses that add to our community. And I need to know from all of you why you believe that another business will be excited to put their family restaurant next to a dispensary. And I understand it's the law, and it's been important in other communities. Lastly, I wanted to understand why we already have a predated draft and ordinance when I don't understand. I see nothing in the minutes of the Planning Commission or your minutes from the last meeting of what your value add you see to our community is. What is the tax benefit? How is it going to help our community? When I see that there's potential downsides that have nothing to do with a flyer. And so I really don't want the focus to be on this flyer tonight. I want the focus to be on how this can help our community. I'm very dedicated to this community. My family is, and my extended circle of friends are. And I have 2 kids that I'm raising in this community. So, those are my comments.
Thank you.
So, could you, because I've not done this before, explain to me when you
Yeah.
respond to the questions that I have?
Yeah, so as I stated before, per the rules of procedure, the public is to address the city council, and the fact that no member of the city council responds does not mean that the council agrees or disagrees, but now is
Information then.
that information?
Where can I access the information? Where can I access the information that the city council believe, why you are in support of this?
You
And son,
you can follow up with your alderman after this, and we can provide you
I've asked
that
my alderman,
information.
and she said that, and I know Mandy personally,
Yeah.
that she, I'm not attacking her, but there's no evidence of knowing what the value add is financially.
So we will provide you statistical information based on the current entity that's operating within in our community.
I would like
and
to see that in
extrapolate with
writing.
others. Thank you, though. I do believe the 5 minutes is up. The next name on the list is Luke Funk.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. First off, wanted to thank you for giving me this outstanding opportunity to express my First Amendment right to speak with you. So, way to go. All right, so I'll make this quick. The flyer is late to the party. Cannabis is already here. It's up Rolling Road. It's easy. So I had to do some research to figure out what was actually going on, and so we're just talking. Excuse me. The vote tonight's just going to be on where we're zoning it. But right now, it's in a manufacturing district. We're going to want to move it to commercial, which is where it should have been in the first place. So easy day. And the answer to the last question is 3% on top of whatever the state taxes. We get taxed 3%, and that's what comes to the city. So we're surrounded by other cities. We got Arlington Heights. We got Palatine. We got Schaumburg. They're already taking their cut of the cannabis market. So we're just expanding a little bit into the corner where they exist, so maybe that we can soak up our dollars. Well, if you get tax dollars in, you're going to take it out of me less. So I highly encourage you tax me less and pull some of that market value. They've already got DeKalb, Cesar, they've already got lounges. They're already doing well. The average group is 40 to 60 years old in Cesar. I pulled that, it was an easy search. And then West Peoria and Carbondale are next. They're already approved. They're going to get theirs too. So Rolling Meadows, thanks for keeping up. I appreciate it. Thanks for bringing the receipts, Mayor, because that flyer did not bring any. It just made some statements, no facts. So thank you for the facts. Thank you for bringing that to the table. I had to get out there and get my own, but I figured them out, and they're just behind the ball game. So I appreciate your attention this evening. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. And then there are 4 other signatures on the sign-in sheet that do not wish to speak at this moment in time, but they are here for item D, which is the 6B conversation in our consent resolutions. So if there are any questions to that subject, we can have a member of the council pull that item and make a motion to deviate and bring them in. So with public comment concluded at this time, we will go ahead and move on to the next item, which is items pending, and it's line item A. It's an ordinance number 22-10 to amend the alcohol liquor code to increase the number of licenses permitted under the Class K liquor license for a loft hotel located at 3405 West Algonquin Road. And this is in for second reading. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman McHale. Thank you again, Alderman O'Brien, for the second. Is there any discussion on this item? Seeing none, the question is, shall the ordinance be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Budmats.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Feliciano.
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yes.
Reyes.
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, this ordinance is adopted. This next item on the agenda is an ordinance in for first reading. It consists of one item. This is item B. Is there a motion to consider this ordinance for first reading?
So moved.
Thank you, Alderman Sonoyka. Is there a second? Second. Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second. This ordinance, line item B, number 22-00, to amend sections 122-85 and 122-331 of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Rolling Meadows, Illinois, to allow and regulate adult-use cannabis dispensaries as an allowable special use in commercial zoning districts. This is first reading. This ordinance, if adopted, would expand the city's zoning codes to allow through special use cannabis dispensaries to operate beyond our current manufacturing zone districts and into commercially zoned properties, specifically C2 and C3 zones. Is there any discussion on this item? Alderman Budmats and then O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I received substantial input from my ward on this issue. I'm assuming many of you also did. I will not discount the input that I received as being misguided or uninformed. The fact that the flyer may have not all factual data in it does not change people's opinion of what they think about this subject. And so I won't discount their opinions. even if it was brought to light by a flyer which doesn't have complete truth within it. So I will be voting no, out of respect for my residents, and the majority of which feel that this is not in the best interest of Rolling Meadows. There is a dispensary already in my ward. It operates with little or no trouble that I'm aware of. However, the fact that Rolling Meadows has an abundance of vape shops, an abundance of gaming cafes, that together with potentially an abundance of marijuana dispensaries or parlors for the consumption thereof is not appetizing to me or my ward. I don't see it as being in the best interest of Rolling Meadows. I don't think it brings much to the adding to the gross domestic product. I think all it does is similar to other problems, it just plies on people's money and it leaves them in a worse place after they're done using it. So I'll be voting no, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Alderman Bud Matts. Alderman O'Brien?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have, probably like you, probably a fraction of the calls we received, but I did want to say I do think it was over 20 residents in the 3rd Ward plus 4 from outside, and similar to Alderman Bud Matts. I personally am not opposed to this as long as we could put some type of limit on the overall one, but that's not our position on the dais here. We're each representing our ward, and based on 2-to-1 ratio of residents that reached out to me from the 3rd Ward were opposed to this. My vote will be a no for that reason. Again, even knowing personally, counting my own vote, being an individual resident, it was 3-to-1 as of last evening, and today when I got more phone calls, it did shrink some, but the over 20 3rd Ward residents that reached out, and a lot of it was, as I see some of our roles in an educational perspective, because there was some drastic misinformation in that, as well as the residents I spoke to felt based on our demographics or population, 1 dispensary was enough where it's at. So that's why I will be a vote in the negative tonight based on the residents of the 3rd Ward. And if there's, again, it's first reading, as I talked to many of the residents, there will be a second reading and talk to them through the process, that this does not mean we are opening up Rolling Meadows carte blanche to cannabis dispensaries. Please continue to reach out if there's any questions between now and the March 8th reading as well.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. And to your point, it's a special use, and so it does have to come before council to make that decision. It's not like anybody can just open up shop when they're compelled to, and that's one of the important components of this, is through special use. Any other? Alderman Sonoyka and then Bessetti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Residents in favor and against the proposed ordinance reached out to me over the weekend, and I appreciate their participation. I ran on a platform that was focused on infrastructure, inclusion, and sound financial management. For the resident that spoke today requesting specific benefits to recreational marijuana uses and recreational marijuana revenues, for the first few months where those revenues were provided to us, it was a significant increase. However, under Illinois law today, we actually cannot look at those specific breakdowns, and it's included in our full commercial revenues that we receive in our quarterly financial documents with the council packets. So if you'd like to look at the general funds, we can certainly do that. But as far as what specifically is pinpointed through recreational marijuana use, we actually cannot provide that per state statute. So so I know that we had mentioned that earlier, but I wanted to just clarify that for the residents. That said, we also have a planning and zoning commission that makes recommendations for the city council, and we do rely on them and their public hearings to provide recommendations to us. I think that we will look very closely at decisions that are split, but for decisions that are unanimous, it gives the council the confidence to vote in favor of these types of matters because they've spent their due diligence reviewing the proposed text amendments and the ordinances that are before us. And for that reason, we do put trust into our committees. That's why they're there. And we are looking forward to having controls on those because these are still special uses, even though they would be in a commercial zoned area. That still requires going through the Planning and Zoning Commission as well. So there's always an opportunity to prevent a specific commercial entity from coming in. So this is not stating that we're opening the floodgates. I think that's very misleading and it's just not true to what the ordinance is stating. There are very specific parameters that are before us. And so for those reasons, because it is a policy that's very controlled, it's a policy that will benefit the city, and it's a policy that will ultimately benefit public health, I will be voting in favor of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Sunoika. Alderman Bessetti?
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions regarding what I read in this whole thing, and that hopefully it'll help clarify for some of the residents. I, unlike my fellow council members, got 2 emails, and actually I got 3, two from residents, and the other one that was anonymous, and 1 phone call from another resident in a different ward. So I didn't get a whole lot of feedback on this at all. In my book, nobody calls, that's acceptance. So, however, I do have some clarifying questions that I want to ask about. So what we're voting on, is this only for the commercial area east of New Wilkie, or all commercial areas, given it meets the stipulations in the ordinance?
Joellen, go ahead.
Thank you. It is only for those commercial areas east of New Wilkie.
Okay, because I didn't see where it specifically says this is for those areas east of New Wilkie. I say that I see where it's accepted to be in multi strip malls, basically, and that it can be in a single standalone building elsewhere.
It's
And did I misread that?
It's my understanding that this focuses specifically in our packet on New Wilkie, Algonquin Road, and Gulf Road within that region. That's where this is confined at this time in our C2 and C3 zoned districts.
Okay, so is that the only area that we have C2 and C3?
No.
No, but
So where else would we have C2 and C3?
The ordinance is specific to east of New Wilkie per the map on the front page of the first memo. That's
Okay.
the area in question.
I just want to make absolutely sure, because, maybe I skipped over something or something, but when I got down to the bottom of the packet where it actually states this is what the text is going to say, there's nothing in it that says that this pertains only to east of New Wilkie.
Joellen?
I can point out that in Exhibit 2, which is the land use table, there is a subnote 1 for the adult use cannabis dispensaries in commercial zoning districts C2 and C3 that says in compliance with 122-85F. And when you go up to that section and look at the dispensary section, it will indicate specifically in F1, except for commercially zoned properties east of New Wilkie Road, a facility may not be located within. So it goes through this exception process to identify where it is allowed. If that's not clear, we can look at modifying the language, but
Yeah, I would
the
like to
actual
see the-
intent is to use that section of the code to regulate it east of New Wilkie Road.
Just the way I read it is, except for commercially zoned properties east of New Wilkie Road, a facility may not be located, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't say anything about facilities that are not part of that area, that it's restricted.
If I can help provide a little additional clarification. So the way that this language is written is it sets certain distance boundaries for those C2 or C3 areas that are not in the area east of New Wilkie. So outside of the commercial areas east of New Wilkie, there are all of these subsections, F1, 2, 3, and so forth.
Correct.
Which require boundary distances. And in our review of the existing commercial districts as they relate to or are spaced compared to daycares or residential areas, they, outside of that area, they are within less than 1,000 feet of residential or daycares or schools. And so the way that this language is crafted is that it will confine the proposed adult use cannabis dispensaries in that zoning district, the C2, C3, which are east of New Wilkie, based on the distance parameters set forth.
So by default, there's no other C2 and C3 that will allow this. So there is no way that, unless we were to totally change this section of the ordinance, it could not get passed by special use or anything if it violates this. I just want to make absolutely sure, because my biggest concern is, just like the cafes, once you start to accept one, then the case can start being made for multiple. So, on the surface, I'm in favor of this right now. Just my one caution to, say, future boards, I don't want this to turn into a slippery slope.
So deferring to our attorney here, given Alderman Bessese's question, is there any additional language we should incorporate to further spell out, beyond the use of the matrix that we have and the codified wording in the ordinances, is there any other language we should incorporate?
I can work with staff on further evaluating that issue. It can be expressly stated in this language here, as the manager has informed the council. The way it's written now only allows for that area to have a dispensary be considered as a special use, and all other commercial districts would not, or outside of that specific area would not meet the requirements set forth in the statute. But if the council wants to give us some direction to see if we can add some clarifying language, we can do that. And
Well, my question was that, I mean, by default, they can't go anywhere but this region, and that's known. So just from a place of curiosity, do we need to incorporate anything additional from a linguistic perspective, or this satisfies it by default? This is the only geography we can...
this satisfies
Yeah.
this at this time.
Okay, thank you.
And that would be, I'm sorry, good. We change zoning all the time. We change zoning of areas at various times. So if there was another area that we decided to change to, the zone that this would be acceptable in, and it met all of area F, then it would be allowable via special use to go in.
It would have to come back before us as a council, just like we are today,
Mhm.
to make that amendment to the coding. So if that were to happen at some time, it would be before the council at that future date, and we would either approve or deny. And so at this time, based on the current infrastructure or illustration of the language, that this is the only parameter in which the default for cannabis dispensaries can exist right now. If we were to change language
Understood.
later, we'll have to
Understood.
revisit
I
it.
just wanted to clarify, because I know that's the type of questions I would, and feedback I would probably get, because some people don't necessarily totally understand how the wording and everything all works. So thank you for explaining that and everything.
Thank you. Alderman Veneziano?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I too received numerous emails and phone calls on this matter. Many were in regards to the flyer that they did receive. I think they did make way in our ward. And so I tried to get back to as many residents as I possibly could, and answering as many questions as I could on this matter. But I will be voting against this tonight, in the fact that I too had almost 3-1 against this. In the same line with Alderman Budmatz, people are free to feel, the facts are either facts or non-factual on these flyers. Most of the people that I was able to speak to on the phone, even after answering their questions, their opinions still really were not swayed in any which way based on this flyer and alone. Their opinion, whether it's swayed from a flyer or not, is not for me to question. I'm just their voice and putting forth their opinion and how they would like our community to be. And so tonight I will be voting against this.
Thank you. Alderman Reyes had her hand up, and then you can have your second bite after that.
Thank you, Mayor. I too received numerous emails over the weekend from residents regarding the ordinance. Some in support and some very much not in support. I do feel that this is an opportunity that Rolling Meadows cannot pass up. Regardless if you approve of the recreational use of marijuana or not, there is a demand for it, and there is a large customer base with disposable income. Having an additional dispensary in that area will attract customers not only to that dispensary, but also to our existing businesses. That additional traffic will eventually attract new businesses. Surrounding cities like Schaumburg have already done it very successfully within commercial districts, and others like Arlington Heights are seriously moving in that direction. I will be voting yes.
Thank you, Alderman Reyes. Alderman Bessetti, your second bite at the apple?
Yeah, and I want to let people that know, if I didn't mention it before, that I will be voting yes on this. However, this is only first reading, and should I actually get any comments from my ward outside of the two that I got, I'll definitely take that into consideration.
Thank you. Alderman McHale.
Yeah, I too did not get as many emails and phone calls as everybody else did, but for what I did get, for everyone in favor, there was one opposed. I do intend on voting yes on this ordinance this evening, considering it's a special use, and every time this business would like to come into the town or to the city, they would have to come and stand before us and get that approval. It's also an appropriate location for our city right now. I mean, you have neighboring Arlington Heights and neighboring Schaumburg right there. I passed a dispensary this evening on my way here down Gulf Road. So if they're going to spend their tax dollars there, why not bring them into Rolling Meadows, into our city, and take advantage of that situation? So I will be in support of this ordinance tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Alderman McHale. Is there any further discussion? Any second bites at the apple? If not, then I'll ask the clerk to call roll on the first reading.
O'Brien.
No.
Veneziano.
No.
Bessetti.
Yes.
Reyes.
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Bud Matts.
No. With 4 in favor and 3 opposed, this will move forward for second reading. This brings us to new business, and it's item C, which is a motion to approve payment of bills on warrant for February 22nd, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the warrant?
So move, Mr.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano, for the second. Is there any discussion for the payment of bills on warrant? Seeing none, the question is, shall the warrant be approved? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Veneziano.
Yes.
Bessetti.
Yes.
Reyes.
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, the warrant is approved. This now moves us on to the next item on the agenda, which are the consent resolutions. This consists of 6 items, and those are items D through I. Does any alderman wish to remove any items from the consent agenda for resolutions? Seeing none, the chair declares it in order for one motion to consider the 6 resolutions in a single motion without debate. Is there such a motion?
So move, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman O'Brien, for the second. This brings us to the first line item D, resolution number 22-R-20. It's to authorize the support of a Cook County 6B classification tax incentive for property located at 5300 Newport. Line item E, resolution number 22-R-21 is to adopt the 2021 zoning map. Line item F, resolution number 22-R-22 is to award a contract for the annual street maintenance crack sealing for the year 2022 for various city streets. Line item G, resolution number 22-R-23 is to award a contract for 2022 sidewalk and curb replacement program. Line item H, which is resolution number 22-R-24, is to approve and authorize the execution of a public utility and public bike path easement agreement. Finally, line item I, resolution number 22-R-25, is to authorize the renewal of agreements with private refuse haulers for the disposal of refuse from multifamily dwellings to Swank facility. The question is, shall the 6 resolutions be adopted? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Bessesi.
Yes.
Reyes.
Yes.
Sunoika.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Bud Matts.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, the resolutions are adopted. This brings the council on to other business and reports. I do not have any appointments this evening. Those look like they're coming in March, and I don't have any proclamations. Does the city clerk have anything to report this evening?
No, not tonight.
Okay, thank you. Then this will move us along to city staff reports. And within the city staff reports, we have the first item, which is the community items of interest. And for this, I will defer to Ms. Lori Cizak. Lori, the floor is yours when you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor. Save a life and consider giving blood this Thursday, February 24th from 1 to 7 p.m. at City Hall. Appointments are required and all donors must wear masks. Register at vitalent.org or call 877-258-4825. While there is still snow on the ground and we're in the thick of winter, summer fun is just around the corner. Mark your calendars as we're excited to announce our music lineup for the city's summer concert events. Rolling Meadows will be rocking with performances by acclaimed bands including 16 Candles, Hello Weekend, Wedding Band, Student Body, Anthem, and many more. It'll be a fun-filled summer here in Rolling Meadows. Stay up to date on city happenings and special events by visiting and following the city's Facebook page at facebook.com/City of Rolling Meadows. With spring just under a month away, we are providing a friendly reminder that daylight savings time begins on Sunday, March 13th at 2 a.m. Mark your calendars and get ready to spring forward in just a few weeks. When changing your clocks, also remember to test your smoke and carbon monoxide alarms and replace any functioning batteries or expired alarms. Chicago Northwest Eat Local Week is set for March 4th through the 13th. This 10-day event only happens once a year, so don't miss out on what's cooking. Plan ahead to visit your favorite Rolling Meadows dining spots in advance or try something new. A list of participating restaurants can be found at eatchicagonw.com. And make sure to let the host and server know that you're there for Chicago Northwest Eat Local Week. As a reminder, a complete listing of Rolling Meadows restaurants and businesses can be found at the city's business website, rmbusinessbuzz.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate the updates and information. This brings us to the second item, which is the January 2022 financials. And as you know, the financials are located in the packet. And if there are any questions, comments, or concerns regarding those financials, please contact our interim finance director, Tom Glazer. Moving on from the financials to the last item on here, which is the March 8th, 2022 City Council draft agenda. For this, Manager Sabo, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. The draft agenda is included in the agenda packet, and a few highlights include the resumption of swearing in of new police officers who will join us along with their families at the March 8th meeting. In addition, we have the second reading of the adult use cannabis zoning amendment, which was read on first reading this evening. A few other items include approval of a landscaping contract, a contract for Brockway sanitary sewer extension, an engineering contract for the construction observation services related to the same Brockway sanitary extension, the sewer extension, and lastly, the replacement of a forestry vehicle as well. Again, this is a draft agenda, and the final agenda will be posted in accordance with the Open Meetings Act, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Manager Sabo. Actually looking very forward to swearing-ins resuming on a public platform. I know I'm taking it back from the deputy clerk. During the time of COVID, we were performing those in a private setting, but these are significant moments for our first responders who get sworn in, and I would like to be able to bring that back to them and their families, and so that's something to very much look forward to. Moving on to matters not on the agenda. Are there any matters not on this evening's agenda that a member of council, Alderman Bud Matts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In light of tonight's festivities, and there seems to be some discontent surrounding the process by which the announcement was made for the zoning commission. And I realize, of course, that there was no property to put a sign in front of because we were talking about a district per se, so the notice was only given in the newspaper. So I would like to make the suggestion that in the future, if we're going to be making a zoning change of some sort and there's no property to put it in front of because it's not property specific, then the sign be placed in front of City Hall, letting people know that there's going to be a zoning meeting and the purpose of the meeting, and et cetera, so that there is some notice other than honestly, than a small ad in the newspaper that many people may miss, so that as many people as possible are brought into the process and it appears as transparent as it possibly could be.
Appreciate that suggestion. I defer to staff and our attorneys to see if that's possible, and if it is, we should absolutely do whatever we can to provide our residents with more information at their avail sooner. So we'll follow up with that, and hopefully we can have feedback for you. Any other matters? Alderman Sonoyka?
If I may add to that, I would love to volunteer on any projects that staff would like to embark on in increasing our communication with our residents. Of course, in the council, we want to be able to be as accessible as possible, and this was probably, I think, an example for Alderman Budmats where he would have appreciated maybe more leeway for his residents, and I'm sure my residents would appreciate it too. So happy to help wherever we can. Thank you.
Thank you, man. Alderman Sonoyka, I wanted to say this might be premature, but as you know, and the rest of the council knows, that Manager Sabo has been putting together a communications committee to help with our internal communications that then push externally to our residents. Manager Sabo and I are having continuing conversations to help improve our abilities to communicate and bring forth transparency. And it's my hope after I meet with Manager Sabo tomorrow on our Wednesday's meeting that we will have a committee of the whole discussion on communications and our ability to improve that, as well as better safeguards and mechanisms for our residents and their personally identifiable information should we use technologies to communicate to a broader audience as opposed to traditional physical signage. And so that will be coming hopefully to a committee of the whole in the very near future. Any other matters not on this evening's agenda? Okay, if not, then I would like to then entertain a motion to go into closed session for this evening under Section 2C2 of the Open Meetings Act regarding union negotiations, as well as under Section 2C11 of the Open Meeting Act based on a finding that litigation against the city on a certain matter is probable or imminent. Do I have that motion? Thank you, Alderman O'Brien. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Alderman Veneziano, for the second. Is there any discussion about going into closed session? Okay, seeing none, then I'll ask the clerk to call roll.
Reyes.
Yes.
Sonoyka.
Yes.
McHale.
Yes.
Budmats.
Yes.
O'Brien.
Yes.
Veneziano.
Yes.
Bessesi.
Yes.
With 7 in favor and none opposed, we will now enter into closed session. The audience and press are advised that we do not anticipate taking any action upon returning to open session. So with that, everyone else who is not staying for open session, have a wonderful evening.